Okay, I'm about to try the same sort of wheel here, the drive wheel. Oh, there's a bit of stuff stuck in one of the holes there that I did earlier. The last one I did shifted out of line. Right, I've changed some of the settings, some of the firmware settings. I've turned down like the jerk and acceleration. I'm also asking Cura to print this out slower. And I'm going to print in this corner because I think this part of, when it's over this side, the X axis is less impacted by any possible jamming bearing wheels in the linear bearings up here, which do make a bit of a noise as they're travelling across. Okay, this is a 7-hour 8-minute print. Yes, 7 hours 8 minutes. That's because I am printing out slower. I'm printing out 80% infill and quite fine. Now, when I turn this printer on, it's going to be a hell of a racket because I have fitted, yes I know this is a mess, this is a cardboard shoebox. I have fitted like a new heatsink and fan on my voltage drop down because I have a 24 volts for the heat bed powered, well, controlled off a solid state relay in this box. I have the ramps in this box and obviously the power supply in this box, but this drop down voltage thing gets very hot, so I've put a big AMD heatsink and there's a CPU big fan on there, and it's that biggish fan, quite a biggish one, I can't tell you the size, but one of the biggest sizes for CPUs I think, just fitted on this drop down voltage thing. So that converts 24 volts from the power supply to 12 volts for the ramps, LEDs and everything else, basically anything of 12 volts. As I say, that gets hot, so I fitted that, but it makes a hell of a racket when I turn it on. So we have to prepare for that when I get this plugged in and turned on. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, watch your ears as you hear. Right, I'm going on print from SD, main belt drive. Do you know, there's something like, I feel like I've forgotten to do something. Right, I've clicked that. Or I'm asking for a 0 bed. So that's there, that's the ambient temperature, that's the actual reading of the bed. And that is the target temperature at the top. So it's saying about 19. That will rise as I print, I think. Seems to do that. I don't know if the temperature of, I assume it's the temperature of the plastic actually going through to the heat bed and knocking it up 2 or 3 degrees. This is the temperature of the nozzle, gradually rising, 100 there, and we're aiming for 190 using Cura. Once it gets to that 190, it should start printing. I'm going to pause the camera now and then I'll come back. Right, it's just started going through its sort of leveling routine. I do ask the LCD to show me a message here, so it's saying leveling routine. And then the BLTouch I'm using here will touch down in the centre, and then it will do 9 points to do the auto leveling. Obviously this print is well, obviously I'm going to put this print on a time lapse because it is a slightly over 7 hours, about 7 hours 10 minutes according by Cura. So as you see, it's probing different areas of the bed to allow for any sort of, if the bed's not totally level. Just get my long nose pliers ready to get any use off the hot end there, and there's quite a bit of ooze on the hot end. I hope you can hear me above this fan, because there's a tendency for this camera to pick up noises like the fan more than, say, somebody talking. I have, if you see my area print, it did move left, but was a bit slow, so that's it to hopefully increase that speed. We'll have to see how it goes here. I put on F1500, so that's F1500 to move left there. Now originally I did have a GX sort of 0 to move left after this probing here, but that seemed to wipe out this, the map that's down here. It's sort of making a map of how high the bed is, and then it'll allow for how high the bed is in different areas. Now is it going to move left? No, it's still moving left pretty slow. And now it's coming in to print. As I say, it should be printing out over here. That's where I've asked printer to, sorry, that's where I've asked Cura to print it at. Sorry about the camera going out of focus there. This camera tends to go out of focus if I zoom in. I asked for 2 circles, that's just about within the edge of the blue painter's tape on this side. Right, it's just finished its probing. I've asked this to come left even quicker. It was on 1500, and now I'm asking for about 3000. Let's see if that makes it move left faster. I'm not sure if it will, because I'm not sure if the Marlin sort of speeds I have set up will override it, which it seems it might do, because although it's moving nice and smooth there, it's moving over, just getting any use off with some long nose pliers, and it should be printing a bit further in, so it shouldn't catch this like clamp thing I put on. I could flatten this clamp down a bit. Borderline. Well, that is certainly printing further over there. This is the outside like skirt ring, so it'll go inside even more and miss it even more. But it's quite close there. The pin on this that's hitting this is sticking up quite a bit. I would estimate that's sticking up a good 4, maybe 5 millimeters there. As you hear the fan noise, just let me put the camera a bit closer. And yes, the Z, sort of knocking the camera there, the Z is allowing for any offset of the bed there. So that's moving the sort of carriage up and down as the bed moves about. Well, and the X carriage moves about as well. As I say, this is a 7-hour, 8-minute print. It'll be interesting to see if this shifts out of line, because I'm asking this to go slower. Sorry if I knock the camera here. I'll just let continue a few moments here, just let do the first layer, maybe a little bit more, and then I'll put the video on time lapse, because we don't want to be watching a video for 7 hours 8 minutes. And I'm not going to stand here listening to this, or sit here listening to this fan on here for that length of time. No, thank you. Just a second, just making sure the legs on this tripod are reasonably okay. I have had problems with this tripod. The light braces on the tripod have just broken off, like a piece of, believe it or not, plastic. Could print one, yes, if ever get this printer working properly, but I don't know if it's worthwhile on this cheap old tripod. You can see the clamp here that the pin on this BLTouch would just about scrape on. As I say, it could probably flatten this down a bit more, but this print is moved further over that way to avoid that. Yes, I have support on this, that's why you might see some like almost cross hatching on the edges there, on this edge over here. That's part of the support structure, because this does have half overhangs on. Those possibly could be designed out. Let me zoom out a touch, because this camera can be very funny about zooming in. Bit of plastic sticking up there, right on the right hand side. I don't know how easy it is to get down this tripod. Just a second. I can wait until the head moves over even before. Seems to be a bit of plastic also sticking over in that back, just where, like back left hand corner as well. It looks okay, so far as I can tell. That bit of plastic sticking up there is definitely on part of the support sort of structure that Cura does. Let me take this down, try and get the bed almost, so you can see how high that sort of clamp thing is there. When I put this on past the video time lapse, there will be no audio, thankfully, because then you won't hear this big fan wearing away. So I'm about to do that in a few more seconds. Just let me check things. Yep, let's go for it. Well, it's about 1 hour 24 minutes into this print. Back on normal speed in the video at the moment, and you can certainly see the supports here around the edges. These are these lines and squares, because basically a print can't print on top of nothing. It's got to have like a thing to lay the plastic onto. And that's what the supports are used for, and those should be relatively easy to remove, break off. They're designed to be like that. See, the holes are forming well. I have the retractions set quite high, higher than what E3D version 6 hot end actually recommend. I think they recommend 2mm, because they get worried about actually sucking any hot plastic back into the cold area on the hot end and then it jamming, but I've had no problems with that so far. I think it's 4.5. I will put the details here in the video of the retraction, that is. Doing the auto leveling, no problems there. Auto trimming. Now what I want to watch is, will this shift over? Because the last print I did like this, it actually shifted layers quite a bit. about 50% of the way through the print. Now I've asked it in the firmware Marlin to go slower, a bit slower here when it's printing, a bit less jerk speed. And I've also asked, a bit of plastic over there, just want to get a shot of that, wouldn't affect anything, it's just annoying, that's all. And I've also asked Cura to go a bit slower to see if that will help. Just going to see if my step down voltage controller, how hot it is. Yeah, it's still quite hottish. I'm just feeding it by hand and it's pretty, I wouldn't say it's hot as it was. Oops. Caught my fingers in one of my big fans there, and it's pretty hottish. It's still in there. That's even with this big noisy fan you can hear on it. So I might think about doing that some other way. I might get another power supply unit that does 12 volts, a separate one from the 24 volt one I have on here. Something I'm going to have to seriously think about. I'll have to see how well this print comes out before I do that. It seems to be on circular sort of objects that I have most of the problems. Of course, on circular objects it's sort of doing X and Y all at the same time, trying to. Right, I'm going to go back on the time lapse. 1.5 hours coming up to on the 7-hour 8-minute print. Well, that's the time Cura says. So let's get back onto time lapse. So back to normal speed in the video, and it's basically started in a way to do the teeth of this belt drive. I've just seen it like juddering. I think it's this juddering that actually caused it to slip before. So as I say, I've tried turning down the speed both in the firmware, like the acceleration, the jerk speed, the overall sort of travel speed, etc, etc. I've asked Cura to do it a bit slower as well. Doing all that's added about half an hour to the overall print. Be doing quite well at the moment, but it was after this stage that it did slip before. See, there's a juddering there, see how that's going. Now to me that looks like not so bad as when I was doing it before. I think it might just about cope with that amount of like juddering for the teeth without causing any problems. That's my feeling, not a scientific test. It's only when it gets at least, well, much further on in the print that I will know whether it's going to slip or cause problems. I might even have to wait until the total print is finished. Right, I'm going to change to a different angle in the camera view. So I'm just going to pause it a second or two just now, let it go a little bit longer. I suppose I could get used to this noise of the fan, but there's no reason to, I don't think, because I did have a bit noisier fan on the power supply unit, and I put a new fan on there which was an awful lot quieter. I'll tell you the make here, etc, etc. And that's why I plan to put like a similar type of fan. I think it'll be a bigger one, but a similar make of fan on the CPU cooling unit that I've put onto this 24 volt to 12 volt buck power reduction thing. Now these power reduction things that I'm using are basically meant for automobiles and trucks to change 24 volts to 24 volts to 12 volts. I'm thinking of 30 amps because that's the ampage on one side, because there's like two sides on these voltage reduction units. There's a 30 amp side and a 0.5 amp side. They're very good, don't get me wrong, it hasn't caused me any problems as far as I know. It's just that it was getting really hot. But when they're put in a truck or a car, they can be fastened to the chassis, which is like a massive heat sink, and as it's driving along obviously it's going to get a lot of airflow and keep it cool. Here in my shoebox I'm using, let me show you. So there's the shoebox, let me open it up. Here's the voltage reduction unit, this square here, and I've fitted an internal fan powered off the 12 volts that is inside here. The 24 volts is coming into here, getting reduced to 24 volts, and it's got to dissipate that in a form of heat. I added two heat sinks, one here and one here. This is because there's like two chips in here. Some holes in the side to let warm air out. I can feel warmth coming out of this. It is what I would term pretty warm, and just below this you might just see the fins of the heat sink. Sorry, this tripod, terrible. Heat of the heat sink here. This is an AMD CPU heat sink, and below that is a big fan, and in this box is a big hole below that, so it's sucking air in and blowing out the box. I didn't want it blowing this warm air in. This is sucking air in and blowing out through these holes. This small fan that I've fitted. Let's see if I can get this to work. Yes, it is. Sometimes the battery on here isn't where I'm pointing at. Yeah, I'm pointing at that label. You know, 35, call it. It's actually 34. But this was getting a lot hotter before, so this is certainly keeping it cool. And before, all the heat was like getting dissipated. Well, most of the heat was getting dissipated in here. Some was coming out the holes I drilled in the front. I made a mess here on some of these holes. I should have drilled pilot holes, because I think there's a thing called a frog on a twist bit, and that's like a flat bit, and that was ripping all this cardboard to bits, but as long as it works. So this is a 24 volt power supply. That's going through a solid state relay, which is sort of buried under here somewhere, or there it is under there. That's not in use at the moment, because that is controlled by the amps, which is down here. So that is switched on and off by the amps when I have the heat bed turned on. It's not turned on at the moment. And that controls a 24 volt to 300 watt heat pad on this printer. I have another fan here that's blowing air in all across here and sort of out through the holes. There's a fan here that's print some warmth there, which is also blowing air in, and there's holes underneath this power supply unit. So this drop down from the 24 volts is powering the ramps, but it's also powering LEDs on all the fans. This fan, the fan that's under here, the fan on the hot end, all the LEDs on the hot end, on the 0.5 amp side. So it's got 0.5 amp side and a 30 amp side. That's a lot of ampage, 30 amps. That sort of level of ampage isn't really needed, but my tendency, if I buy something on eBay and it says 30 amps, I say, well, it's half that, because I always tend to be quite optimistic, shall we say, on eBay. So it's this unit that was, well, it still is getting pretty warm. I mean, it's not nowhere near as hot as what it used to be, that's for sure. And we've been doing this print for, just a second, let me see the display, 3 hours, 3.5 hours been doing this print. So that is certainly working, but as you hear, it's this fan under here, the CPU fan, that is making that big noise. So I'll probably look into getting a different fan for this, a quieter fan like I have in here. I fitted this fan in here, took the other fan out. It wasn't too bad originally, it wasn't making a bit of noise, but I put a different fan in, this type of fan here, and then it was really quiet. So there's like a bit of warmth getting trapped in this box, but I think that's okay to cope with. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there, I can't really remember offhand. So just to reiterate, this is a 24 volt power supply. That gets knocked down to 12, which goes to the ramps. The ramps controls this solid state relay, which controls the heat pad. 24 volt, 300 watts. This 24 volt gets knocked down by this unit to 12 volts to power the ramps and to power the LEDs and like fan, including the hot end fan. You'll probably see this light flickering, that's the hot end PWM working away there. And the ramps, that's like the hot end LED. That's why that's flickering. There's an LED on this, for I have fitted an LED to the front of this as well. There's a hole in the side for the reset button on the ramps. I need to press that. It does go a little bit quieter when I close the lid. This other fan at the back is a big 230mm CPU, not CPU, sorry, case fan for computer. That's pushing air in through a carbon filter just behind that. There's another fan inside, what they call a high static pressure fan, which is blowing air out the back. There's a HEPA filter off an old vacuum cleaner out on the back of this. This is all powered from a USB 5 volts, but it's boosted up to 12 volts with a boost regulator thing inside. So this is just a old shoe box. Right, I want to show you, let me show you this angle first for a few moments of it printing. See how it's like juddering there, but that's not, I think that turning the speed down has helped that. It's not juddering so violently, like both in the firmware and in Cura to a certain extent, mainly in the firmware I would say, really. So I've asked for less acceleration speed, less overall speed, less travel speed, etc. in Marlin firmware. Right, I want to give you a side angle view of this, so I'll turn the camera off while I move the camera around there. Just now. this is looking in from the side. Normally I have a sheet of cardboard here because I do have a door over here, and that's just to sort of stop any drafts. If anybody comes in or out, I come in or out. Stop any drafts blowing onto the part and influence in the part in a negative way. These are the sides of the printer, metal sort of sides here. So there's only a bit of a gap there to actually film through, video through. I've got an E3D version 6 hot on there, so this goes out of focus, but the zoom on this camera is weird. Every time I seem to go in focus, it seems to go out of focus for at least a certain part of it, and it will come back in focus, I think, as I'm zooming in. E3D version 6 hot end, BLTouch on there, the 0.5 nozzle, Bodum system, and over here I've got this belt drive feeding mechanism, which I would recommend. Just cut a arrow shape out of a old address label and stuck that on, just so I can keep an eye that it is actually turning. I've never had any problems with this feeding mechanism. My old feeding mechanism was absolutely terrible. So it's a Bodum system. You'll probably see the white tube going. Sorry there, my tripod is terrible. You'll probably see the Bodum tube going over there. That's going down to the E3D version 6 hot end. I've got the retractions set quite high. I think it's 4.5. I'll put the details here. Now that is way over what Cura sort of seem to recommend for E3D version 6 hot end with a Bodum system anyway. So far as I understand it, they only really recommend 2mm. They're very worried about almost drawing any hot filament back into the cold area of the hot end, E3D version 6, but I've had no issues doing that. Now the printer does jerk a bit while it's working. I was hoping in a way to catch the retraction happening on here. I might keep filming this a bit. So you'll probably see how the printer's jerking a bit there as it goes through its routine. If you look at that top corner, so this is the top corner of the printer, it's like a trapezoidal, I think the term is. So it's a belt drive. No problems at all with this belt drive feeding mechanism. Actually, that's what I'm trying to print at the moment. I'm trying to print like a modification of this feeding mechanism, a belt drive feeding mechanism, built off this to a large extent, but my version, I hope, will have a quicker release mechanism for changing the filament. This one has two like bolts, just there, see at least one of them there, the other one's a bit behind it, I think. And this is why I put an arrow on this feeding mechanism like that, just to address label, cut the shape and stuck on there, is that, as you see here, the feeding mechanism can turn very, very slow indeed. Sometimes it's hard to know it's even turning. But by sticking this arrow on, it helps me know that it is actually turning and working. As I say, I've had no problems with this. It's just like, because of my old feeding mechanism, could be very dodgy. Sometimes I think it would feed, not grip the filament, release the filament and all sorts. Very poor quality. There's sort of the pinion cog. This is an aluminium, I think it's aluminium pinion cog. Driving the belt, which remember turns the big cog, just a second, let me try and steady this tripod, turns a big cog in the same direction as a pinion cog, which is different from if you have a geared system. A geared system will probably turn it in the opposite direction. So that's something that has to be changed in Marlin. Obviously you want to set up the extrusion rate, how fast it actually extrudes, how far it extrudes, calibrate it when you do fit it. So it does have a Bowden fitting on top there. You just see the blue of the Bowden fitting on top and the white Bowden pipe. Again, going extremely slowly, turning extremely slowly, but it is feeding. And that is the purpose of having the arrow on. If I need to quickly look at it and make sure that it is still turning, I can look at that arrow and that's easier to see that it is actually still turning. Right, I'm going to get a different angle of this feeding mechanism now. So I'll turn off the camera just now. Just let this come round a bit more. Now it's just on the retraction there. So here is the feeding mechanism, stepper. I do have these heatsink fins on all my steppers. Just a second, I want to... Ouch, yes, this like X1 is very hot. This one isn't anywhere near as hot as that one. But then this one is moved slower and not moved probably so much to a large extent, or more of a steady rate. Let's change the angle just now. So that's feeding this Bowden tube going right down here under this X carriage. Just about make out the two silver bearings, linear bearings at the back, one at the front, and I think these ones at the back are catching a bit, so I do have some more on order. This is my BLTouch bolted onto here. That's the Bowden tube going down there. I have some sheets of cardboard with quite a few LEDs, 4 times 3 volts, 12 volts, all powered off 12 volts, so there's quite a few LEDs to give a bit of light round the hot end, which is powered off that step down voltage unit I showed you. These are optical smooth rods we're riding on, well recommended. These help stop wobble that I had on this printer when I got it. So I'm zooming out a bit quick there. So I do use these sort of tensioning springs on the belts, both belts. This is like the wide belt. You might just see, I don't know if you can see it when it goes back, you might just see part of the tensioning spring when it goes back all the way possibly. So it seems to be printing very well at the moment. Can't see any slippage yet, but it was about halfway through before I got slippage on the previous print of this same gear wheel, belt drive gear wheel I'm printing here. So it's 3 hours 45 minutes into this 7 hour 8 minute print. That time is only sort of, to say it's estimated by Cura. Right, I'm going to put back on the time lapse just now. Just give it a few more moments. As I say, I'm asking for 80% infill, and you can't really see any infill there, no sort of gaps. So 80% is nearly enough. 100%, that's how I reckon it. No strings, well I can't see any strings. retraction is set to, so far as I know, 4.5. I'll put the details here. Well over the recommended sort of retraction distance that is recommended by the E3D version 6 hot end. 0.4 nozzle. Printing on blue painter's tape, which was cleaned off with isopropyl alcohol when I first laid it on. The heat bed is set to 0, but according by the display it's on 25 now, so it has increased temperature. You have a feel of it, it doesn't feel warm at all. That's just probably with the heat of the plastic actually getting transferred to the bed, I imagine. Right, let's get this on time lapse, because we're going to be here many hours. And as you can probably hear from the fan, it's back to normal speed in the video, and you can just make out the teeth on this belt drive cogwheel here. This is the main wheel. So we 4 hours 42 minutes by the display into this 7 hour 8 minute print. It does seem a bit slow there as it's doing the teeth, as it's sort of jerking to make the teeth. I think that's what it's doing when it's jerking quite a bit there. So far as you can see, it's okay, no problems at this moment, but it was about 50% of the way through, I estimate, when it did the previous layer shift. Now on this one, full focus if it will. This one was done in slicer, and it came out with quite a few blobs, loose even, of plastic on it. That might again be because I have the speed set too high, particularly on the teeth, and to a certain extent, sorry if it goes out of focus there, that's in a way where you want the most accuracy on these teeth. So you can see a biggish loop there. This was done in slicer, as I say, sliced in slicer at the previous setting speeds. Now I'm doing use Cura for this one. Goes out of focus there. I'll let you watch this for a few moments at normal speed. I'm going to get the other previous model I did in Cura that the layers shifted, just to show you. Okay, this is a previous model I did in Cura. This was also well done in Cura, and you can probably see there how that layer here has shifted over. This again was done with supports which I haven't really bothered removing. So this is exactly the same model, except on this one I've asked the speeds to be lowered down quite a bit. Okay, so let's get on to back in a way onto time lapse. Back to normal speed on the video. We're 5 hours 21 minutes into this 7 hour 8 minute print. I can't see any shifting at the moment of layers. Can't see any stringing of layers. No stringing, I should say, not of layers, just no stringing there. So I possibly will keep the retraction rate on the setting that it is now, which I believe is 4.5. That's quite a lot on this E3D version 6. I will put the details here of the retraction rate. The X carriage stepper and the Y carriage stepper motors are hot. The extruder stepper is fine, just lukewarm. I'm just checking the Z1s. The Z1s are cool actually. So I might consider putting a fan on the Y and X steppers. They're pretty hot. Actually, let me get my thermostat thing out. I'll show you that. Well, this is my X carriage stepper. I do have fins on. These do help, I think. Let's try and get this on here. So that's saying leaving of 60 degrees on this stepper motor. That's within tolerance, I believe. I think they can go hotter than that. But I don't particularly like it at heat. Yeah, it's a bit hot to touch. Same as the Y1. The Y1's about the same temperature, feeling it. The other steppers are within tolerance, easy, just warm. Even that, I think the Z1s are quite cool actually. Oops, going out of focus again when I'm zooming in. This is the edge of the printer here. So you can certainly see the teeth here when the LED lights on the hot end come round. Fitted. LED lights there. Can't really see the LED lights, just see the tips of them. Would estimate the sort of travel speed there when it's doing these teeth, when it's jerking a bit there, to be just within possibly borderline of being able to cope with it. So it is probably as fast as it dare go really when it's doing these teeth. As I say, I did turn down the acceleration, the travel speed, the jerk speed sort of thing, all in the firmware. I've asked Cura to print it a little bit slower. So I'm hoping all that together will stop any layer shift. It's going to be hard to tell if that does or doesn't, because it might be just something else actually that causing the shift. It could be the bearings, which I know the sort of linear bearings on the carriage. So I think it's one of these two back bearings here. There's two of these sort of shorter bearings, one at the front, two at the back, and I think the balls in there are causing some sort of grating as this carriage moves left and right, particularly when it's in this sort of area over here. That's why I'm printing more near the right hand side of the bed, to try and avoid using this area. Sort of, presumably it's when the balls roll into this area that they're moving into a certain position when they're sort of grating. I do have some more on order. I did try some of these sort of plastic type bearings, whatever they are, and I found this carriage could wobble when I used them. So I've gone back to these metal ball bearings, and those don't, at least those don't wobble basically. My BLTouch there for doing the auto leveling. Very good, well recommended in my opinion. The BLTouch, it doesn't matter what type of bed you've got. You can have plastic bed, paper bed, you know, aluminium, wood, glass, whatever you want. This will come down and touch and take readings of the bed level. Right, so we 5 hours 28 minutes, that's nearly enough 6 hours into this 7 hour 8 minute print, so about 1 hour 8 minutes, according by Cura anyway. Printing with a E3D version 6 hot end through a 0.4 nozzle. Temperature on that nozzle is set to 190. No heat on the heat bed sort of thing, although that is at 24 according by the LCD 12864, so that's like ambient temperature, and possibly a bit of warmth coming from the plastic part going through the blue painter's tape, which was cleaned off with isopropyl alcohol. I cannot see, can I, just trying to see, when I'm looking from the edge, just let me zoom out a bit. I don't know how easy this would be. When I'm looking from the very edge here, across here, this direction, lower down, I can see like light there. I don't know if that's exactly warpage or if it's just the way the supports are done. Let's do it from this angle. You might see just a skimp of light there, particularly there when, like now, you might just see a bit of light coming from underneath the part there. As I say, I'm not sure if that's just the support. Hopefully it's just as the way the support structure is done and not the actual part. Last thing I want is this to warp. I think I'd rather have layer shift than it warping at the moment, that is. Right, let's go back to time lapse. Back to normal speed on the video for a bit. No shifting, as you can see, but it certainly It's lifting the blue painter's tape just down where I was showing you the light down here. I'll try to show you that now. And I'll let this go around a bit. You might just see the edge of that blue painter's tape where there's joins in the blue. So you might just about make it out as that like join in the layers of blue painter's tape around that side when the light comes round, is that it is lifting a bit there. It's almost like there's a bump there in the whole print. Well, it's not one problem, it's another problem. That's what I say with printing. Well, we're at, what we at, 6 hours, 8 minutes, so there's 1 hour, nearly enough exactly to go. No layer shifting. That could be just coincidence. Certainly see the teeth there. I cannot see any zits, bumps or loops or anything like that from where I am looking around it at a brief look. It's only when we get off the bed when it's finished that we can tell what this print will really be like. Right, I'll put this back on time lapse just now. Well, as you probably can see, back on normal speed, and notice the juddering here. I'm a bit worried about that juddering. It's coming to the final sort of finish of this belt path layer, I'm going to call it, where the belt goes, and it's coming to the next section of this print. We've got just over half an hour to go. That's going by Cura timing. But they estimate the time to take for this print. I actually think that might take a bit longer than that, but it's saying 6 hours 37 minutes of a 7 hour 8 minute print. And as you can see how it judders there. It's this juddering that I think might have help trigger this layer shifting, especially when I was printing more over the other side, on the left hand side of the print bed, because I know that the linear bearings, well, I'm pretty sure the linear bearings anyway, the balls in there are just grating a bit sometimes when it's more over the left. I am waiting for some more linear bearings, some new ones, so I'll have to wait until I can get them before I can hopefully sort that problem out. See there, there's the juddering. And that's where the speed turned down in both the firmware and in Cura. Not much stringing on this. There is a slight string, I think, about 1, that's all I can see. As far as I know, the retraction is set to 4.5, which is not recommended by E3D version 6. That's what type of pot end I'm using. As far as I know, they only recommend 2mm. They worry about almost sucking any hot plastic into the cold area of the hot end. But up to now I've had no problems with that amount of retraction on my printer. Using a Bowden system, of course. There's a holding tube, going up there to the belt drive feeding mechanism. Just wanted to show you the juddering. Still might be a bit quick when I think that's one thing that when I see that amount of juddering. Now I've got to consider that if I print out 1, print out 2, and they come out problematic, you know, I've printed out more than that, but they come out problematic, both leaving up 5-hour prints, there's 10 hours wasting. If I slow it down and I get a successful print, well, that's got to be better than wasting a load of plastic, a load of time, a load of money on failed prints. So it's something I've seriously got to think about doing. I imagine that speed reduction really is only needed in a part that might be like this, where it's got teeth on like this for, in this case, a belt drive. Oops. Anyway, I'll go on to time lapse again for a little bit, and I'll try to catch it as it finishes off. Let's watch this juddering there. Might even hear the juddering if you can hear it over the noise of the CPU fan I've fitted onto the 24 volt to 12 volt reduction. Or let me actually get a temperature reading of that while it's actually working. First of all, I'll show you the display. So it's 190 for the E3D version 6 hot end. The heat bed is set to 0, but it is actually at 23 there. Right, let's open up this. Now you can probably hear a lot more noise. It's this unit that gets hot. Nothing else, it's this. Well, I can feel, it feels like warm air blowing out of this fan here on this power supply unit. Feeling it, it's warm but not hot. Let me feel this one. So there's 2 chips in here, 2 main chips. There's one on this heat sink, there's another one down here on another, well, an extra heat sink I put on. This is my mini fan I put on. Let's try and get temperature reading using this. 33. That's not too bad. 33, 34. It seems to jump a lot. That's, I think, if I go on the silver part. Not recommended to use these pointing at silver. Let me try and get the power supply. And I'll just get on the label on there, 25. Let me point it somewhere near the ramps. Where are we? Let's try and get on one of the heat sinks on the ramps. 34. So this is in 27, 33, give or take. And we actually feel the big heat sink at the bottom. That is warmish. So heat is being transferred to the big heat sink. I was a bit worried about how much heat would get transferred, because basically it's only the edge of this that's touching that heat sink down there. I mean, that is certainly cooler than what used to be. A lot cooler. Inside the box is cooler than it used to be, so it does work. It's just the noise level of this. So I will plan to change the fan I have. Probably see the glow of the LED. That's got a hot end, the pulse width modulation to control the hot end temperature. On the ramps, let me put this lid back on. That does help quieten it down a bit, just the shoebox there. Okay, let's go back to the print. I cannot see any loops, artifacts or bumps on these teeth at the moment. Obviously you can't see the back of it, a bit hard to tell, but I cannot really see anything like that I've got on slicer. But I can't 100% say this slicer doing that. It might be just the fact I'm doing well, different settings, better speed, lower speed, so to speak, and maybe more retraction. Okay, let's go on time lapse for like the final run. As you see, it's doing a top edge. That will help guide the belt to stay on the teeth. Back to normal speed on the video. I can tell it's finishing off because I do print an arrow to say the direction this should be turning in this belt drive. Right on the top here, and that's what it's doing now. That's the last thing it goes to print on this part, the arrow. Now on the display it's saying 7 hours 23 minutes at the moment. Cura did say it was going to take 7 hours 8 minutes, so it's a little bit out there to say the least. So it's just doing the arrow. Let me try and show you this one. I don't know how well this will come up. See, there's an arrow on there, you might just make it out. That tells me the direction it should be turning when it's printing correctly, and there we go. It has finished. Very fine piece of rules right at the end there. So that's 7 hours 23 minutes. 7 hours 23 minutes. I am worried about this side because the painter's tape, there's a joint here, and the painter's tape was definitely lifting a bit there. One problem with painter's tape is sometimes it will lift. I can't see any loops or artifacts or bumps, zits or anything on this at the moment. I can't tell how well this is printed on the bottom. This does have supports here. Yeah, so you have it playing a tune when it comes forward to let me know it's finished. But basically I'm going to leave it about a quarter of an hour just for the part to stabilise and cool down, because it might be slightly warm on the top there. Not too bad. Heat bed was not turned on. It is at 24 degrees though, the heat bed there. That's just ambient temperature, and any temperature from the part getting through to the heat bed, so to speak. Right, I'll come back when this is given a few more moments to stabilise, I think. I'll give it a few, not long. So it's 7 hours 23 minutes, you might as well say it's 7.5 hours altogether to do this 80% infill, and like going slower, as I said. I can't see any shifting. No, looks, I'm just looking round, can't see any problems like that. There's a tiny string going across here. That's about the only string that is on it, apart from the final string, which was actually caught on this, the tip of this arrow on the edge. Right, I'll give it, say 10 minutes or so. Okay, it's been quite a few minutes. Let's see how easy it is to get off this blue painter's tape and have a look. Came off quite easily, not too bad at all. So here's the bottom, these are the supports, this sort of cross hatch type affair. Tiny bit of string there. Right, now this is one of the problems I had with, well, at least Slicer putting loops of plastic on. Well, I'm blaming Slicer, but it might have been my speeds too fast, too quick. I had a lot of loops, bumps, blisters, artifacts in, especially in the teeth. There's the arrow. Apart from the supports, and cleaning up the supports is going to be, to a certain extent, very little cleanup. Maybe a bit of light sanding around the edges here. Is it flat? Yes, I think so. Might be slightly curved. Don't think I have anything flat to hold it against offhand, but certainly not curved a lot. Let's have a look at these edges here. Yeah, sorry, going up there. I was worried that there was a bit of light under one of these edges, but probably this edge here. But I don't think it has lifted, because that blue painter's tape, just the corner, well, the edge there where the two strips join, was just lifting a little bit. So let's turn it in a direction it should be turning. That's for hex nut. I almost said hexadecimal, still got computer terminology running around my brain after years of doing computer programming. Right, it's trying to get these supports off and see what, if that leaves any sort of marks. I would class that print as excellent. Well, looking at it, what's it like getting? Have to be careful using your nails, because sometimes the plastic can go under the nails. Just one of the skirts come off very easily there. Has left some sort of bumps, ridges almost on the blue painter's tape. Let me take you in for a closer look. So you might notice some like bumps and ridges here. Not too bad all in all. I'll have to seriously think about getting a new sort of, excuse my nails, I'll have to think about getting a new sort of bed thing to go on to. I would class that as being one of my best prints, well, probably the best print I've done for this part. Remembering that when it's doing like circles, it's having to go X and Y together, and with all these teeth on here, it's having to like go in and out almost, and to a certain extent. Yep, very good. Let's try and get that arrow in a bit. It looks like it's going to be a usable part. Don't know until I probably come to try it. I'll just remove these supports and then I'll come back and show you them. Okay, I've removed the supports. It does leave a bit of almost marks on there. I just almost twisted them off, pulled them off with some long nose pliers. Possibly a bit of sanding could tidy that up a bit. Looks like being a bit of a bump in there. One of the supports possibly. This model isn't exactly even, because look at the indent there compared with the indent there, different distances, but if it works, it works. To be honest, I can't